Welcome back. Jesus had spent 40 days and 40 nights in prayer and fasting in the wilderness, preparing himself for the spiritual war that he knew he would encounter as he sought to perform the ministry that his Father had prepared for him. Similarly, Moses had spent 40 days and 40 nights fasting before Yahweh. We read of that account in Exodus chapter 33 and 34. But before we look at that account, I would like to consider the context of Moses' life coming up into that situation. First, considering the local context, the immediate context, which actually begins in Exodus 24, where we're told that Yahweh calls for Moses to spend time with him on the mountain. Yahweh initiates it and calls for Moses to come up on the mountain. Then in chapters 25 through 31, we read that Yahweh gave Moses ordinances for the children of Israel to follow as they worshiped him, as they worshiped Yahweh. In chapter 32, Moses comes down from the mountain after spending 40 days in the presence of God. 40 days not praying, not with fasting. We're told it was just 40 days. When he descended, he came down carrying 2 tablets of stone, which Yahweh himself had carved and had written on the 10 words of the covenant. However, when Moses arrives at the camp, he saw that the Israelites had fabricated a golden calf while he was gone, and they were worshiping it. In his anger, Moses threw and broke those very tablets of stone. Now, prior to coming down the mountain, Moses and Yahweh had a very animated conversation. Remember, prayer is a conversation with God in worship. It is, as well, a two-way conversation. I'd like to pick up this account in Exodus chapter 32, reading verses 7 through 14, where we read, "And Yahweh said to Moses, 'Go, get down, for your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded calf and worshipped it and sacrificed to it, and said, This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt.' And Yahweh said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, and indeed it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore, let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them. And I will make of you a great nation.' Then Moses pleaded with Yahweh his God and said, 'Yahweh, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, He brought them out to harm them, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven. And all this land I have spoken of I give to your descendants, that they shall inherit it forever.' So Yahweh relented from the harm which he said he would do to his people." First, note the intimacy, the level of the intimacy of the conversation between Yahweh and Moses. In fact, we're told in Exodus 33, verse 11, "So Yahweh spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend." Moses had the privilege of having great personal intimacy with the Creator God of the universe. Secondly, note the topic of the conversation between Yahweh and Moses. Yahweh is declaring that he's going to consume Israel and begin all over again with Moses. What would you have done if you were Moses? What would you have said? Well, you're God. If you want me to be the focal point, who am I to stand in the way? But Moses didn't act that way. Moses does not stand quietly by. Rather, he rushes to the defense and honor, not of Israel, but of Yahweh's own name. This isn't about whose name is going to be on the nation. Rather, it's about the honor of the one and only true God. The one and only true God, who was the deliverer, the true deliverer of Israel. Moses realized that though God was using him, he ultimately wasn't the true deliverer of Israel, though he may have been referred to as that. Rather, the true deliverer was Yahweh himself. And Moses began to have a more intense fellowship with the Father, with Yahweh himself, as he began to realize whose work this really was. What does your conversation with Yahweh look like? Whose honor are you most interested in? How open and honest in your communication with Yahweh are you? Hopefully, after all these sessions, this is number 100, you're still not praying in pretentiousness, but rather there's a genuineness and an openness that is sprouting. As you pray today, continue to work on that. An openness with the Father, a genuineness with the Father, for he knows all about you anyway. Pray and have a blessed day.